Her name was Sarah, and she thought she had me trapped, standing there in the courtroom with her perfectly styled blonde hair and designer suit. She believed victory was already hers. For 3 years, she had been bleeding me dry with child support payments for a son I was convinced wasn't mine. But the courts didn't care about my doubts. They only cared about the birth certificate with my name on it and the fact that I had been married to her when the child was born. Every month, I watched $1,500 disappear from my account while she lived in luxury, posting Instagram photos of her new BMW and weekend trips to Miami. But today was different. Today, I had something that would change everything forever. Just minutes before the judge called the case, Sarah's lawyer had presented their latest demand. Not only did they want to increase the child support to $2,000 a month, but they were also seeking full custody and demanding that I pay for private school tuition, medical expenses, and even her legal fees. "The DNA test proves you're not the father," she smirked at me across the courtroom, her voice dripping with false confidence. "But you're still legally responsible because you signed the birth certificate." Her lawyer nodded smugly, shuffling through his papers like he was dealing the winning hand in a poker game. My lawyer, David, looked defeated. He had warned me that even with DNA evidence proving I wasn't the biological father, the legal system often favored maintaining established paternity for the child's stability. But what Sarah and her team didn't know was that I had spent the last 6 months digging deeper than any DNA test could reach. I had hired a private investigator, traced phone records, and uncovered a web of lies that went back to before the child was even conceived. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun, called the courtroom to order. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows across the wooden benches filled with spectators, other lawyers, and court reporters. This was family court at its most brutal, where lives were dissected and futures decided with the bang of a gavel. "Your Honor," Sarah's lawyer began, rising from his seat with theatrical confidence, "we're here today because Mr. Johnson has been attempting to shirk his parental responsibilities based on a DNA test. While we acknowledge that biology may not support paternity, the law is clear. He was married to my client when the child was born. His name is on the birth certificate, and he has been acting as the father for over 3 years. We ask the court to deny his petition to terminate support and instead increase his monthly obligations to reflect the child's growing needs." Sarah nodded along, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue she had strategically placed on the table. She had perfected this performance over the past year, playing the struggling single mother while she collected support from me and lived with her new boyfriend in a house I was helping to pay for. The judge turned to my lawyer. "Mr. Peterson, what is your client's position?" David stood slowly, glancing at me with a look that said he was about to deliver bad news. "Your Honor, while Mr. Johnson disputes biological paternity through DNA evidence, we understand the court's position on established paternity. However, my client has new evidence that fundamentally changes this case, evidence that goes beyond biology and strikes at the very heart of this entire proceeding." Sarah shifted in her seat, her smirk faltering slightly. Her lawyer leaned over to whisper something, but she waved him away, still confident in her position. The judge raised an eyebrow. "What kind of evidence, counselor?" I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a manila folder that had cost me thousands of dollars and months of sleepless nights to compile. Inside were documents that would expose Sarah's lies and reveal a truth so shocking it would leave everyone in that courtroom speechless. David took the folder from my hands and approached the bench. "Your Honor," I said nothing as I handed him the documents, just watched Sarah's face as the reality of what was about to happen began to dawn on her. The judge opened the folder and began reading. Her expression shifted from bored indifference to complete shock as she processed the information. She looked up at Sarah, then back at the documents, then up at me. The silence in the courtroom was deafening. Even the court reporter had stopped typing, waiting for someone to break the tension. Sarah's lawyer grabbed the documents when the judge handed them down, his confident demeanor crumbling as he read. His face went completely pale, and he leaned over to Sarah, whispering urgently,
The adoption papers, the real father. What did you do?" Sarah's hands began to shake as she realized her carefully constructed house of lies was collapsing around her. The documents revealed that the child she claimed was born during our marriage had actually been adopted 3 months before we even met. The birth certificate she had used to establish paternity was falsified, created using fake documents and bribes to hospital staff. But that wasn't the most damaging revelation. The private investigator had uncovered that Sarah had been running this same scam with 2 other men in different states. She would meet successful men, fake pregnancies, create false documentation, and then file for support. The child she claimed was mine wasn't even in her custody most of the time. He was living with her sister in another state while Sarah collected money from multiple men, claiming each one was the father. The judge's voice cut through the stunned silence. "Miss Rodriguez, are these allegations true? Did you falsify paternity documents and defraud multiple individuals?" Sarah tried to speak, but no words came out. Her perfect composure had completely shattered, and she looked like a deer caught in headlights. Her lawyer was frantically whispering with his assistant, probably calculating how quickly he could withdraw from the case before being implicated in the fraud. "Your Honor," Sarah finally managed to whisper, "I can explain." The judge slammed her gavel with a force that echoed through the courtroom like a gunshot. "There is no explanation that justifies fraud, perjury, and the systematic deception of this court. Not only is Mr. Johnson's petition to terminate support granted immediately, but I am also ordering a full investigation into these allegations. If proven true, you will face criminal charges for fraud, forgery, and perjury. Furthermore, you will be required to repay every dollar of support you fraudulently collected, plus interest and penalties." The courtroom erupted in whispers and shocked murmurings. Sarah collapsed into her chair, her designer facade crumbling as the weight of her crimes crashed down on her. Her lawyer was already packing his briefcase, clearly preparing to distance himself from what was about to become a criminal case. But the judge wasn't finished. She turned to me with an expression that mixed sympathy with respect. "Mr. Johnson, I want to commend you for your persistence in seeking the truth. Too often, innocent individuals are trapped by false claims and fraudulent documentation. Your dedication to uncovering the truth has not only freed you from this injustice, but has potentially saved other victims from the same fate." As I left the courtroom that day, I felt a mixture of relief and anger. Relief that the nightmare was finally over, that I would no longer be sending money to support Sarah's lifestyle built on lies. But anger at the 3 years of payments, the stress, the sleepless nights, and the damage to my reputation and relationships. The story made local news within days. Sarah Rodriguez arrested for multi-state paternity fraud. The investigation revealed that she had collected over $200,000 from various men across 3 states using fake documents and manipulated DNA results. The child I thought I had been supporting didn't even exist in the way she had presented him. Within a month, Sarah was facing federal charges for wire fraud, crossing state lines to commit crimes, and running what prosecutors called a sophisticated paternity scam. Her Instagram account, once filled with photos of luxury purchases made with fraudulent support payments, was now evidence in a criminal case. The private investigator who helped me uncover the truth told me that Sarah's case was one of the most elaborate paternity frauds she had ever seen. She had studied the legal system, knew exactly how to manipulate courts and emotions, and had perfected her performance over years of practice. But she had made one crucial mistake. She had assumed that her victims would simply accept the legal burden without fighting back, without digging deeper, without refusing to be trapped by her lies.